Hi guys, it's me again, your international radiographer. So lately I've seen videos of people sharing their stories of how expensive Canada already is. Some of them were locals and there are some who just immigrated here. I've also read some news of some international students or immigrants who had to resort to homelessness or GoFundMe because they could not catch up with how expensive Canada is. And despite bringing with them enough funds, there's just nothing or barely enough money left in their pockets. So for today's video, I'll be talking about how much money is really ripped off from your pocket if you will move here. What are your daily expenses, your bills to pay, usual price for eating out, and many more. And this is just based on my own experience because we all have different struggles or we all have different stories here in Canada, and at the end of the day it is up to us on how to budget our own money. So keep watching this video, and maybe through this video it might give you some ideas of what people are going through here and might help you with your decisions later on. Don't forget also to subscribe, like, share, and comment. So if you decide to come here as a couple and you have no kids yet, just like us, then you already know that you should have funds intended for your house rent. Now, the rent depends if you're renting the whole house, the basement, or a room only, and is it near to shops, schools if one of you is an international student, transportation, workplace, or other establishments where you can easily find a job. The price also depends if you're in the city or in a rural area. In our case, we rented a townhouse which has 3 bedrooms and 1.5 baths, and its monthly is $1,400. This is already in a rural area of British Columbia, mind you, 5 to 6 hours away from Vancouver. However, there are also prices that could range for as low as $800 to $2,500 per month here. What other people usually do is they look for a roommate to divide the expenses because in most cases, unless you are renting a room only, you still have to pay for the water, gas, and electricity bills. So we'll use our case again. If it's not winter, our usual bill for gas is between $35 to $45, while for electricity and water, it could range from $50 to $70. This changes also during the winter because your gas bill could go as high as $130, while nothing changes much for the water and electricity. How about if you live in the city, which is Vancouver, for example? For a house, it could cost you around $1,300 to $3,000 per month, and for a bedroom, it would cost you around $800 to $900 or to $1,300, and utilities inclusions are sometimes subject to the landlord's approval. So yeah, that's just the start. Now take a look at that in this video and you could see us trying out some of the menus in this local restaurant, and with these tacos alone it has already costed us $13, which is not bad. We did not pay for the place also, so that's a plus point. Now speaking of food, another expenses that you'll have here is of course the groceries. For 2 people alone, you could have a grocery that will cost you around $100 to $200, but that's already quite tight. I don't know about you, but for us, we like to eat, so it's a little bit higher as we don't want to limit ourselves when it comes to food. So our monthly groceries usually amounts to $300 to $500, and that already includes tax. Again, you should know what your priorities are. Now, tip to lessen the grocery expenses is to get goods from Food Bank and subscribe to emails or promos at your favorite local grocery store because they will legit give you the items that you've want without any questions. And of course, to cook and eat at home and avoid buying from fast foods or dining outside. Now, what about for the transportation? If you don't have your own car yet, you can take the bus, the train, taxi, use your scooter or your own bike. Taxi rates depends on the distance, so I'm not going to deal with that more. Train fares are usually paid every trip, so if you're paying $3, for example, for a single trip, and you do this every month, that's a lot of expenses for just a train. So some people get the monthly pass, which costs around $112 more or less, depending on the province. But if you're one of those people with low income, depending on the province again, you can get a discount that allows you to pay, I think, $5. So that's a relief for those on a tight budget. For people with own cars, gas prices depends on the province again. Here in British Columbia, we usually pay $50 to $100, and we tend to spend more if we travel on longer distances, such as if we go to Vancouver. Speaking of Vancouver, brace yourself because it's a lot more expensive there. In fact, Vancouver ranks the 3rd most expensive city in North America. and everything there has to be paid, including the parking. And the hotel we got that you saw in this video costed us around 400-ish for a day use only, and that could go as high as 500-ish or more if it's peak season or if there is any concerts nearby. It's a beautiful place to live in and lots of things to do either during the day or during the night, but you also need to be mindful of the cost of living there. Still want to come here? You betcha! Other expenses that you'll have here is dining out or eating out, and for sure there will come a point in your stay here wherein you'll try that no matter how tight your budget is. Based on our own experience here, you'll probably spend around $70 to $200 depending on how many persons eating, and that already includes the tax and the tip, of course. So if I were you, you better do this once in a blue moon because you're never going to be able to save money for the long run. Now, if you decide to come here through a student pathway, another expense that you also think of are the tuition fees, books, and even sometimes your own computer and laptop. For the tuition fees alone, you'll sometimes pay around $14,000 to $18,000 per year, depending on the program you'll choose and how many subjects you'll want to enroll. And it could go as high as $30,000 to $35,000 too, so that's why international students are really happy that they can work for more than 20 hours per week because of the many expenses they'll have to pay, and hopefully IRCC will extend that so international students can still carry on with their studies. And as what I have mentioned earlier in this vlog, that there are monthly utilities that you need to pay and that sometimes your landlord will not include this one in your contract. Aside from the water, gas, and electricity, you could also pay a garbage fee. You'll have to check with your province the fees on this one as it differs. For us, we don't have to pay for this one as our landlord pays for this. There's also the monthly phone plan. Now you can save a little bit here if you don't use much data. You could at least pay $50 to $70 per month, so work on this one. There is also the internet data. For this, you'll have to shop around town the cost of this because sometimes they have their own freebies and good deals they can offer to you. For us, we usually pay $100-ish per month for our internet. Now how about if you have kids? You also need to think of the childcare fees. Childcare is not cheap here in Canada, and this is why for some immigrants, they usually invite their parents to take care of their grandchildren just so they don't need to pay for it, because again, it could cost you around $1,000 per month. But some provinces develop their own ways on how to reduce this one, so better check with your chosen province, or better yet, bring your parents with you. There are many more expenses that you'll meet here in Canada. It's like wherever you go, you always have to reach out to your pockets. But if I'm being honest here, the major expenses that will really make us scratch our heads are the rent, gas, tuition fees, and groceries. The rest are not that heavy for us, such as buying coffee at Tim's or Starbucks, buying souvenir stuffs, buying winter clothes and boots, or visiting some tourist attractions here, because for us, they're manageable. So I hope you learned from this video because not everybody is aware of how money works or are spent here. That's why some people have 2 to 4 jobs just to sustain their needs. Don't force yourself to come here just because you see your friends on social media gallivanting here. Remember that the grass is always greener where you water it. Paalam!